Greetings, Patrick here, 8 Questions with, and welcome to the show. It is the night before Christmas Eve. It is a wet Michigan day, but pretty cold, but not really bad. Um, Dark and wet, and we didn't get any snow. We're not going to get any snow this year, so that's a good thing. Tonight, we will be speaking with film director and podcaster and creator Jerry J. White, the Bronson Creative, and he will be here shortly in about 15 minutes. And he sent some movies for us to look at. I'll definitely be talking to him about that. Of course, he is a victim of my old mail, which is I don't get the mail, but maybe once a week, maybe sometimes even 10 days, because I really don't get anything through the mail, really, per se. But he sent me three copies of his films. One called Hand, one called Autumn's End, The Horror, and then we have one called Seize the Carp. This one sounds like a drama right here. Seize the Carp. So we'll be talking with Jerry about the Bronson Collective, creative. Oh man, I keep on saying that. I had to go back through everything and come back and switch it over to creative because I said collective. Um, so hey Anthony, thank you, sir. Um, so he will be here shortly, and we will be talking with him about his films, and he's a very prolific, talented artist, and I'm looking forward to getting to know him. And I'm glad you guys are going to be here uh, along for the ride. Okay, so one thing that happened today was that we went back to the library. The library was open today, which was pretty cool, actually. Did not expect that until last week. Then they told us that indeed that the library would be open today, Monday. It was still bag sale. And this is the first time I ever went to the bookstore. God, it's the first time I've been to the bookstore since I've been going to the bookstore with other people. So normal, if it was just the normal people there would have been three of us, four of us maybe. But there was other people that showed up too. But I got to go in a little early. Got to go in, I was front of the line, so I got to go in straight to the movies, and I managed to pick up a couple of movies I really wanted to see. One was Bad Boys for Life, and the other one was an ISC film called Oddity, which I've heard tremendous things about, and I'm gonna have to play that. Um, I'm gonna have to watch that this weekend before the end of the year so I can watch it and rank it. I doubt very much it will take over my number one film. I That will be very, very hard to do. My number one film so far, for me anyway, has been The Coffee Table from Spain. That is still my number one film so far as what I've watched. I haven't watched as many films as I did last year, which is sort of strange. Um, but I have watched a few. So we'll probably end up doing just a top 10, top and bottom. Um, it was an uneven year for sure. But I do plan on watching a lot more movies coming up this year. Um, and of course, everybody's going to be coming out the end of the year list. That should be a lot of fun to watch. Um, uh, yeah, I will be taking January off. Uh, there will be no 8 questions within January. I'm going to be taking it off all the way. I'll probably be on for You'll see my recordings for the last two films of. Well, actually, I should get like that all in before February or for January 1st. I'll be finishing up my schlock Christmas. Merry schlock Christmas to you. Merry schlockmas. I know Eric has put his movie out that I picked for him called Evil Christmas, and I am watching. I am halfway through the movie he sent me, which was Mercy Christmas. Um, Pretty good so far. Not too bad. I was like, okay. It seems to be pretty cheeky. It looks like it's gonna be a bit of a gore fest. So I'm looking forward to that. I should be finishing that by today. I did finish my Dollar Tree movie, dollar for Dollar Tree Dollar Theater. I should say I'm saying Dollar Tree because um, last night on here on the tube, someone actually posted that they found movies at Dollar Tree. They found some new movies, and they showed the movies that they had gotten, and yeah, there's about 30 new ones. Um, but I also heard today too that me and my friend Elena were talking that so one of the last major places you can get physical media is now going to be going under, and that would be Big Lots, unless someone comes in at the last minute and saves them. Big Lots is going to be going away, and all the stores are going away. It's going to be um, we're seeing more and more of these stores being pushed out of business. And of course, we have a monopoly going with Amazon and Amazon. So no other outside competing stores are really can compete at all. Um, I don't know what to do about it. I don't have any opinion about that. I know what's happening. I don't know how you would fix it now. I think any chance of all fixing it is long gone. There's no way that they can fix it now. So what we're seeing now with the various stores closing up is going to be just second nature. Um, Probably the only thing that will probably be remaining open, as far as that goes, will probably be, I don't know, because it seems like anything that you can get at a store, you can get on eBay or Amazon. So so I know GameStop's going to be going away here shortly, and there's some other stores that are. I know Macy's, where Lorianne worked for a while. She worked at the Off Saks store and Dearborn. Um, that they're going to be closing a lot of their stores afterwards. Someone even posted that they're closing. They're even closing a Kmart store. I thought all the Kmart stores were dead, but I guess there's still one or two still alive. Hey, Stephen, how are you? Yes, our director is a film director and part of the Bronson Creative, and he will be here shortly. And yeah, I had a lot of fun last week too. I want to say thank you for everybody who showed up. I know we didn't get very many people for that show, for our interview with Bia and Beth from Social Leopard. I know it wasn't the normal interview that we generally do here, here on Eight Questions With, but the motto is I'll talk to anybody who talk to me. So I was really happy with it. I thought both those ladies were very gracious. The brand new season of Social Leopard will kick off in February, and as soon as we get a confirmed date, we will let you guys know about that, so you guys can come over there and give them a listen. If you can still do that by going to the interview and finding their link on their interview page, description page. Let's see what else is up. Um, Tomorrow is our last college football game of the year, well, at least for us Spartan fans. We are heading over to Hawaii to play South Florida. This will be our second time we play South Florida. We played them once before down at their park a few years ago, and got handed got handled. Um, and I'm hoping that I'm not sure exactly how many of their players are leaving us further through the portal, but yeah, uh, yeah. Uh, so I'm hopefully enough of the players will leave. Will leave. I think we're only. I think I'm not sure if our big receiver, is playing or not. He seemed to. It's like I'm sort of mixed at this. I think he was sort of snubbed that he didn't get the Fred Blitnikoff award. And I totally agree with him on that. Nick Nash, if you ever hear this, I agree that you did get snubbed, but not playing in the bowl game, that only hurts. That only hurts your teammates. Doesn't hurt anybody else. Nobody else cares. Uh, the pros, they already pretty much know what you're capable of, you and Justin Turner. So they know what they don't need you to walk up there with a trophy to know how good you are. They already know. Though it would have been nice for you to get the trophy. But you are a first team All American. So there's that. There's Big Jim right there. All right, just in time for our guest to get here. That's Jerry White III. He will be here, right now, and we are about ready to rock and roll, and welcome him in. And we're going to be talking about the Bronson Creative and the movies that he has made. So sit back, relax, and here we go. Good evening.
Hello.
Wow, welcome to the Christmas week, right? Merry
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Merry
Merry
Christmas to
Christmas.
you as well.
Everybody's coming in and say everybody's came over and saying Merry Christmas. I appreciate that. Uh, no, not at all. No, it seems like everybody's been tossing along reels this week or this week for holiday for Christmas, and they're saying I'm hope I don't haven't been bombarding you too much, and I'm going like, well, if he had made my cat list right now, I would probably be this. I would be the one saying that to him, um, because I send a lot of cat reels out. So, how about you? Are you a big fan of social media?
Am I a big fan of social media? Sorry, I'm just grabbing some water. I think you have to be a little bit, but if I could do less of it on there, I would. Yeah, I would actually prefer that. But yeah, I do a lot of stuff on social media.
You know, I agree. In fact, I'm actually this week here. I got I got two more shows after this, and then I'm taking a month hiatus. Um,
Oh, nice.
yeah, I need it. I'm pretty toasty. Hey, brother Mac. Yeah, I just wanted to get like a breather, so to speak. Now I noticed that your company, the
Mhm.
Bronson Creative, you have a lot of work. You work a lot.
Oh, I
Uh,
appreciate that.
I've noticed the amount of releases you've done, all the projects that you worked on, not only as a director but also as crew. Um, uh, I have to say I do apologize. I mentioned I did get all your movies. I got all your
Oh,
movies.
great.
I did. I generally don't really raid my mailbox for like 10 days or so. I just don't have any. Honestly, it wasn't like I totally forgot, but it was like, okay, I gotta get them. I knew they were down there, but at the same time, I was so busy, and it's like it was back of my head. My time, it was like, go get them. It was already like at 10 o'clock at night, 10:30 at night, and I didn't want to go out in the cold. So, um, but I am looking forward to this. I'm looking at this, and I love the covers. That's the first thing that grabbed my attention with these three movies. Anyway, is I love the covers. The
Oh, thank you.
covers
Yeah,
are
I designed all the graphic design for it.
now. This is something I've talked about many times on here, and for one thing, people cannot. There's a few things about the movie making business that a lot of people seem to forget. Hey, Stephen, how are you? Glad you're here. Glad you're here. They seem to forget one how to write a synopsis on the back of the back. You know the what's going on with this movie. A
Yeah,
lot of people have forgotten about that. A lot of people have forgotten how to make a trailer, and a lot of people have forgotten how to make it clean. See, this is a very clean look. Now, I there's a company called Bayview Entertainment, and
I've heard of it. Yeah.
yeah. In fact, I sent Peter the link to our interview tonight because I want to talk about the covers on here. And I had told him that I thought your covers rocked very much with Bayview, which I really
Oh,
appreciate. Yeah, yeah, I sent him the link for him to watch later on. I think it's great. They're definitely grabbing you.
well, I appreciate
When
that. Yeah.
now, of course, I also mentioned too that just when you get just when you had it, just when you had the marketing ready to rock and roll, um, now we're starting to lose more stores. I guess Big Lots is now going to be going away. Now I know that doesn't really necessarily affect you, so to speak, in the fact because you haven't put your movies in there per se, but it takes away one less avenue to where they may have gone someday. And
Yeah.
as you, because
Yeah, our like my whole thing is that so like all these, well, besides Seize the Carp, the other two movies had like distribution deals. They were on Amazon, Tubi, all those streaming platforms. And so there was just over the course of the 5 to 6 years that they were on them, just yeah, full transparency, made about $1,700 in 5 years off of them being on those streaming platforms. Have no clue the data, have no clue how many people have seen them, what countries they've been in. They provided none of that. So with my company, like that, I was producing them. This was my production company, and I was like, all right, well, what I really want is I would like them to be back on physical media, which is what I told the distributors when we started, and that never really came to fruition. And so yeah, but in a long-winded way of answering your question is yeah, I mean it's going to be more grassroots. It's going to be on the website. It's going to be online presence, things like that. So not necessarily in a big store, but yeah, right now you actually, if you live in New Orleans or if you live in LA, they're in Vidiot's and Future Shock, and those are two like independent rental stores. So I dropped off the DVDs to Vidiot's before I left for the holidays, and so yeah, so you could rent them in the store there. But the goal with this was to get them seen, because I really don't know how many people have actually seen them, and then a lot of people worked on them. I made these three movies over about 7 or 8 years, and so now it's been 4 or 5 years, and now I have all the rights back, and so yeah, just trying something a little bit different and see if I think that my passion for movies is that I can actually see them whenever I want to see them. I can hand them to somebody, I can share them, so I own a lot of physical media, and yeah, I just wanted to see what would my movies look like on DVD. So yeah, hearing your thoughts about how they look and everything, I really appreciate that, because yeah, I took a lot of time to put it all together.
now, generally, this is a rule I have, so it's probably one of the reasons why you notice that they're all factory sealed still is I do not review movies until I do the interview.
Oh, okay.
I don't do that.
Oh, cool.
I did that once, and it turned out great, but I did it once, and Lionsgate was not my friend. They they were not my friend. So, but luckily the director was, and I have a great relationship with him. But after that, I said, okay, anytime I talk to somebody, and because I don't, one thing about critics is like as a filmmaker, I mean, it seems like everybody has an opinion, like on your movie. I
Yeah.
mean, I always just tell people one thing. I always tell them that too, Jerry. I always sit there and say it's just one opinion. It's just one
Yeah, I got over
opinion.
that a long time ago. I've had people say they love it, and people say it was the biggest waste of time, and it's like, then yeah, it wasn't for you. That like the movie can't be for everybody, and so but the people that do want to see it, I want to make sure they can see it.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
When I review, I'll get movies sent to me by people like I'm very friendly with. In fact, some are considered good friends. people I'm going to be interviewing, in the future, but sometimes it happens that way. It'll stumble out of the gate. And the thing is, though, it's like, if I'm going to be honest about it, sometimes it's better to be honest than not to. That I think I don't think you necessarily do a service to, by being a glad hander. Like I know, like in the ebook business, that is a business. That is a true legitimate business. There will be people that will charge you or have you pay them, and they will write a professional review for the money.
Oh, there's a lot of that in the film industry. Yeah, there's a lot. I've been asked to pay for a lot of reviews. I've never paid for a review.
Really?
So, oh yeah, there's huge markets for that, and especially in the indie world, like kind of in these like these micro budget kind of sectors and stuff. So there's a lot of those kind of things where yeah, you can pay for a review, and I don't know if they're any good or what they would be, but
Yeah, I did not know. Honestly, I've been
yeah.
around for. I don't consider myself a rookie by any stretch, but I don't know. I didn't know that there were people doing that. I know that
Yeah.
with books,
You can pay to like expedite them. So some of them will be like, oh, we don't have, it'll take a year to get a review, but you can expedite it and they'll have it in 6 weeks or yeah, yeah, so there's a lot of that's definitely a business model out there.
wow,
I've
that's
never I've never paid for a review. So yeah, if
no,
you want to
no,
review my movie, watch the movie. I'll send you a copy of it if you want it. But yeah, I'm not gonna pay for reviews. I want whatever you have to say, you have to say.
yeah, I really truly didn't realize there were people still doing that. I knew that was happening for ebooks because I actually had and interviews. I actually had
Yeah,
someone
yeah, no, yeah. There's
one
a bunch
person
of
offered
that
me
too, like paying for interviews and yeah.
uh, someone offered me $300 to interview him,
Yeah, that
and
seems
they're
about right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and then we're like, why would you pay me to interview you when I would do it for free? I would be
Yeah.
honored to interview you. I wouldn't. Why would I pay? Why should you pay me? I mean, it's not. It's like that's not
Yeah.
ethical. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you want to think about that, yeah, if you're paying for a service, then yeah, you're probably not going to get the complete truth, but
No, no. Imagine, someone gives you, so I'll review your movie for $300. Of course, it's going to come out looking like the best thing since sliced cheese, but that
yeah.
doesn't do anybody any service at all.
Nope.
And sometimes I've actually wondered about that because sometimes I'll go inside the IMDb page and I'll see an independent movie come out, and I'll go take a look at what viewers say. And
Yeah.
on the very beginning, you can always tell this on the very beginning of the list, it's all thumbs up. It's like, well, that's because the filmmaker said he just released this movie, so all his friends and everything will go over there and pump it up to a 10, and then
Yeah.
then everybody else will come in after that. But it's either way. I mean, I sort of look at it. I don't get upset when I see like 10 people writing 10 for 10. I don't. I get more upset when I see 10 people going like 2 for 10 or 3 for 10 because it's like for one thing, you're watching an independent movie, and for three, trust me, it's gonna be better than most anything you're watching right now. So yeah, uh, yeah, I love independent film, and I will be more than happy. And I always try to put something in it. I'm not sure if they'll hear this or not, but I'll tell you, I reviewed a movie that I'll be talking to the cast of pretty soon, and it's they tackled one of the hardest things for a filmmaker to do, and you probably know this as a filmmaker. They tackled it in anthology. Anthologies are hard.
Yeah.
They are hard, hard, hard. I have seen so many. There's for every VHS, for every VHS, there's 10 that are not. I'm saying, trilogy of terror. For every trilogy of terror, there's 100 more that aren't. It's hard. It's a hard genre. I admire anybody who tackles it, but you have to review it in what it is. You have to be fair, and you have to be honest. And so, like I said, that they ran through six, and And I said, I thought 4 of the 6 stumbled, and I thought the other 2 were good, but they didn't have a wraparound. I liked the narrator. I really liked him. Tell you the truth, he really was the highlight. The narrator. He was all right. I was sitting there going like, okay, I could definitely see this guy coming back. But the rest of the movies were just, and so you have to come back and you have to go, because they're all written by different people or co-written by people, and it's just like then you have to write about that, and it's like it's a little, because you have to think of especially if you know some of the people in the movie.
Mm.
That's it's just like when you're sitting there, as a director, and you're sitting there and you're casting your film, but you look out there and you see like 4 or 5 actors that you've already worked before or actresses working before, and you know in your heart that none of them are going to fit what you're trying to do in this movie.
Hmm.
You, and they're sitting over there going, "Hey, Jerry, I'm looking forward to working with you again." Now, as a director, has that happened to you? Have you been in a situation where you're casting a movie and there has been somebody that you worked with, had a good time with, did a good job by you, but they're just not fit. They're not the fit for you this time.
Oh yeah, I think that happens all the time. I don't think yeah, I think, I mean, as you make more films, you don't take it as personal, I guess. And so, but yeah, usually, I would definitely have them out to read and stuff. And sometimes, it doesn't. The actor is great. They're wonderful to work with, and then it's just not. Maybe it's just going in a different way than this film would go, and so the personalities don't match up. But no, I don't think I've ever had anybody really upset about that. But yeah, I think you have that happen a lot though, where yeah, it's like I would love to like only make movies with the 5 or 6 people that I've made a lot of films with, and but usually even if it's a like a maybe it's a smaller role or something instead of the lead, and but yeah, no, I definitely like keep in touch with most of the people, and so I make films with the same people over and over again, so.
How big is your core unit? I mean, like your John Ford book. How big is your John Ford?
Well, yeah, so I made 4 movie or 3 movies, 2 of them have been with the same cinematographer, one of them with another one. Like I've always kind of worked with the same composers, and so it's more of like those kind of people, like the cinematographers, composers, those kind of elements I think are more because yeah, they kind of know the style that I'm going for whenever we're going into the film and all that kind of stuff. So but yeah, yeah, and sometimes it's like the features end up leading to short films, and so it's like the door is always open. That communication's always kind of open. So because you just never know when I worked with a producer that I met, like one of the first years I was in LA, and it took 9 years for us to do anything together, and we just kind of stayed in touch. And so I think those are those kind of things that you keep that communication open, and you just never know where it's kind of going to lead. And I think that's what's really cool about it.
Now, your company is called the Bronson Creative.
Mhm.
Where does the title come from, and how many people are in it?
It's me. It's just one person. So like, yeah, you're looking at all these kind of things. So the cases are created by me. I'm mastering I'm coming up with the designs for all the artwork, all the posters, all those kind of things. And yeah, so it's just me. So the one film, Sees the Carp, that you have in front of you, that was the film we did exclusively as this Bronson Creative. So there was only 5 of us that worked on that film. It was the 2 actors, myself, cinematographer Kenny Keeler, some of my business partners, and then Caleb was, yeah, that one right there. So there was only 5 of us. The movie's completely improvised, and so we wanted to see like what was possible if you kind of like stripped all those conventions of filmmaking away and you just got like back to like simple story and see what would happen. So the film's completely improvised. Consider it like a narrative documentary, if you will. But yeah, so
That's
it's just
hard
me.
thing to do. That's a hard thing to do too.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that is very hard, because I think more than anything else, when you do an improvisation like that, you have to have chemistry. Otherwise, I don't care
Yeah.
how good material is, or what they come up with. If you don't have chemistry, it's not going to work. Um, now, I mean, you're sitting here, you're like, I'm just letting these guys fly. But at the same time, you do have to direct, though, right? You do have to sit there and say, like, okay, so let's just cut back and try to do something, along these lines, or maybe move into the light better. You're directing, get your hands on it. Um,
So actually the complete opposite. And it's the reason I made the film. So what I wanted to do was see really how important is a director when you get to production. And so I think a lot of directors just start directing when they get to production as opposed to doing all the work in pre-production. So our pre-production was like 3 months. We met, we created the story together. So we knew all the ins and outs, how the characters knew each other, like how long they'd known each other, through what, who's their made up friendships and relationships along the way. And so when we did all that work before we started, and then when we started filming, I literally had the actors mic'd up. There was a camera operator, or well, there was a cinematographer, and yeah, and then I wouldn't direct at all. I would just let them talk. And so I knew that it was going to be a lot of editing on the back end to figure it out. But so each kind of take was, each day we'd film anywhere from like 4 to 7 hours of actual footage where we were literally just following them around on this road trip, like a documentary. So they were in character the whole time. So think of it as it's almost like performance art at that point, that we're just capturing these two people living as like childhood friends that are now grown up. And we're just letting them kind of live in that role for a minute and see what happens. And so that's what that film is.
I saw one this year, a movie just like that, just as you described it, and uh, uh, it was She Is Love. That was called She Is Love,
Mm, haven't
and
heard of it.
you have, oh, okay, you have or have not?
I haven't.
Oh, okay. Um, it was called She Is Love, and it stars one of the best working actors I think working today. Um, and it still didn't save it. It was like watching her go. She was luminous, she was lovely, she was like amazing. But the person she got cast against, it was almost everything against. Like, he just didn't believe these two were ever a couple. He didn't believe these two would ever get back together. There was
Oh well,
just
this
like,
yeah, this film's not even about their like a physical relationship. So that was by design too. So it's not a will they won't they scenario. It's always they won't because they're like and so but yeah, so we took out the romantic part too because I just seen too many films that was the whole through line. And to some of what you're saying, that yes, if that isn't believable, it's really hard to, especially without a script to fall back on and
yeah,
to
they
figure
didn't.
out how can we yeah, so this one isn't about a romantic relationship. I think it's a little bit more adult in tone with that, and about
Exactly.
just about
So was this
it's
one. They didn't fall back into that trope either, which I was glad to see, because I just think, you just weren't gonna believe it. You and you just weren't, because it's like one of those things where it's like you feel like what it really, I guess, for me, what I really appreciated after watching that was, I really appreciated how good directors are to a good director is to a movie. It really
yeah.
is. A director, you can have a good story, and a story is extremely important, but you gotta have the director to direct it. You gotta have yourself out there to make it work. Even if it is the most minimum of touch, just like, just the slightest, but it's still, you're still helming it. You're still pointing it
Yeah.
right where you need to go. And there's nothing
Yeah, I
wrong.
just, I just, yeah, I just pointed it before we started to see if I could do enough to point it, and like, so it was more of like, as crews get bigger and casts get bigger and things like that, you start to like, you lose the communication, you lose like everybody's not making the same film because it just gets too big. So everybody, it's hard to get that across. And so with doing this really really small, I was like, okay, if we get like 4 or 5 people together and we all know exactly what the film is, like, can we just go make this film and it'll just turn into what it needs to be. And yeah, and the answer was yeah. We ended up having to shoot 3 or 4 scenes afterwards to kind of make it make more sense, because it was a little abstract because it was filmed in real time basically. And so when we were able to do that, then I think that gave us a little bit more time to go, okay, we can add these little elements in, but those were also improvised. So we just like set up the construct of like, this is the scene, this is what's happening in the universe. And then yeah, and then we were able to go with it.
Uh, so let's go back to your beginning a little bit. Let's go back to your beginning. So where did you pick up your love of film? I mean, obviously, were you always, I find, most of the time you find directors, you always ask everybody, did everybody did you always want to be a director first, or did you ever want to
Oh
just be a
no.
movie? Did you want to be or did you want to be a movie star first and then went into act and then went into directing?
Absolutely not in the movie star. I took acting classes for 6 months to be a better director, and that was it. But yeah, no, this was never this wasn't a dream. It's like a childhood kind of thing. I grew up in a small town in Kansas, and that's where I graduated high school, and then lived around Kansas City, Missouri, and that's where I was kind of born and raised. But yeah, no, I got to college and always had a love for film. Parents were divorced, so I spent a lot of time with my dad during the summers, and we'd go to Blockbuster and get movies, and so we would just always go through that. And so that's kind of like where I got it. We'd go get a new release, we'd get an old one, like the 99-cent wall or whatever, and we just like start going through kind of like movies he liked when he was growing up, and movies that he had seen. He really liked movies as well, and so yeah, and so but I never thought that like making movies would be a real thing. Even in college, I started out as like a marketing guy, and like that was what I was going to go for, like advertising for my major. And I got about a semester in and was realized I'd probably be working in a cubicle somewhere, and that was not where I saw my vision. And so I kind of pivoted, and my school had broadcasting. And so that basically opened up radio, which I was in show choir in high school. So I sang and danced competitively, and so I was able to do the radio thing. And then I found out that like the library needed somebody to film videos for them and edit it, and I got that job, and that's where it kind of went off. I was like, oh my god, I can go play with a camera, and like create these stories and edit them together. And there was just something really fascinating with taking like this really really complex scenario, of making something that's usually just in somebody's imagination and then making that tangible. So there was really like that was kind of that was when I realized. I was like, oh, now then I got involved with a independent filmmakers group in Kansas City, and yeah, I submitted my first film there. It was like a 10-hour timed film festival, like those 24 and 48-hour festivals, and then yeah, it won audience choice in first place. And that was when I was just like, oh, okay, I got enough people in this room to. It was a terrible movie, but it was awful. And I asked him, I said, why did it win? Because clearly not the best technically. And they were like, oh, you had a beginning, middle, and end. You were the only one that had a story, is what they told me. So, and this was almost 20 years ago, and I went, oh, okay, like so the
And
technical
what,
thing that everybody's
what,
really always thinks is so hard, that technical part is easy to fix. The storytelling's hard. And so I was like, okay, if I can tell the story, I can figure out the rest of the technical stuff as I go along. And having the broadcasting degree, being able to run a TV station and a radio station, like I understood how all the gear worked. And so yeah, and then I just kind of I graduated from college and I moved to LA, and I've been out here 15 years. And as you said at the beginning, my IMDb is pretty long. I've been very blessed and very very fortunate to meet the people I've met to make these things come true, because it's yeah, you can't do it by yourself. It's like
what was your first job in LA? What was the first thing
uh
you did when you
So yeah,
landed?
the first well, yeah, what did I work on? Oh, I did a couple like things for like I met a bunch of stand-up comics, and so I did some sketches and stuff for them. And then probably the first, yeah, what was the first movie I like? Um, yeah, I had to get a full-time job pretty fast. I was out of money in like it's about 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So I took like jobs off of Craigslist. I did some corporate videos for a makeup company, that paid like $500 off of Craigslist, and uh, I think I made somebody a DVD. Like I was just doing anything that would get some money coming through. I ended up working on like extras things, so I would like be in the audience of like TV shows when they were filming, which that was a huge market. I don't know if it still exists, but like when I moved out here 14 years ago, yeah, it was great because you'd get like $65 at the end of 8 hours, and you get free lunch. And it's like, okay, you're like, bingo, I got money. I can pay my phone bill. And so it was like, yeah, looking back to those ones where you're like, just like trying to figure it out where it's at. But then I worked for a rental house. So for film equipment, I worked there for about 3 months. And then when I got off that, that's when basically my IMDb kind of started. Like I'd met enough people through that and the things I was doing off Craigslist that basically when I got let go from that job, which was a blessing in disguise, I was able to text all these people and be like, hey, I'm free, I'm going freelance again, and let's go make some movies. And then yeah, it was like yeah, about an 11-year run where it was like pretty nonstop, basically like most of my like yeah mid 20s to mid 30s.
The job you said you got let go of, it was at the rental house?
Yeah, it was like a film rental place. Yeah. So and I got fired
What
right before my my insurance was about to kick in.
well, okay.
Best thing
Okay,
I've ever been fired from.
I was actually gonna say how I mean, it was like I mean, to me, it's almost, it's almost to the point where, man, you do whatever you can to keep someone like yourself there. So, so you can brag on it a little bit, like, look what we've done.
Yeah.
Look at where people are working, working in movies and stuff like that. We can
Yeah.
help. Wow.
Oh, I mean, but
You're,
yeah, it was the best thing that could have happened. I mean, that same person, whenever there was like a dry spell a couple years later, like hired me on during the holidays to work at the rental place at like the same rate I was making when he fired me, and I'd bought
oh,
gear from him and everything. So it was just like we just didn't work well together, and that was mutual. We both agreed with that. But yeah, but he is a great guy, and yeah, and it was awesome. Like he's still around, and yeah,
okay.
they're still doing it, and so yeah, he's a great guy. I've done a lot of things with him. Yeah, post being fired when I was 22 or 3 years old. He should have
You know,
fired me.
what's funny is,
Yeah.
for the longest time, I mean, when I first started doing this, I would talk to a lot of people who got their jump on Craigslist, but it seems like the
Yeah.
last year and a half, I haven't heard anybody talk about Craigslist at all. And
Well,
now
thankfully, I'm
within,
not having to surf it anymore, so I don't know. But yeah, in LA in the big markets, I'm sure it's still pretty. There was a lot
it
of stuff
is.
on there. You have to weed through it. It's a lot of crap too, and a lot of weird people. But there's a lot of weird things happening in there. But yeah, but I got onto some actual like real movies and things like that off of that, where they were like looking for PAs and things like that.
Now, what exactly does a PA do, in your opinion? What did you do as a PA, and what do your PAs do on your project?
I don't really ever have PAs, so like I usually give them like proper job titles. And so like because my crews are so small anyway, so what's great is most people when they're like working on a film with me, it's like they're getting to be a gaffer when they might have only been like an electrician, or they're getting to be a key grip where they were only a like a swing electric or something like that. So it's like they're getting a full like they're getting that job title. Yeah, because most of my films, the crew is actually less than the cast. Like I work with a really small because I like to keep it intimate. I like to keep it where we can all be creative together. Um, but yeah, so that's a PA though is just a production assistant, and that can be anything from helping with talent. So sometimes you'll work with producers, sometimes you'll work with the camera team. So there's sometimes there's a camera production assistant, or sometimes depending on how big the crew is, they'll put them into different departments. But yeah, it's usually a place that you can kind of whenever I was doing it, I basically found the people that I kind of wanted to go in that department. So when I was a PA, I'd like go help the grips and electrics, like help them like move lights and things like that. I'd literally go find a department to go be like, hey, do you guys need any help? That's what I'm here for today. And that would be how I would kind of meet people in there, and that ended up I ended up meeting people that I would get onto other jobs. And there's been PAs that have done that when I was a gaffer on commercials and stuff that I've taken onto other jobs. It's yeah, they just like they have an interest and they want to learn. And yeah.
What's it like working on a commercial What's it like working on a commercial set versus a feature film set?
Much more fast, a lot more people. Yeah, commercials are just a little bit more high stress because like, that's a brand. And so there's usually more marketing people and things like that. So, because basically when you get there, there's not a lot of improvising on a commercial set because they've already signed off on everything. So, unlike with a film, you're experimenting. So you might do a couple takes and then you might change the lighting and things like that. You're just not going to be doing as much of that stuff on a commercial because everything's basically kind of locked in before you get there. So even when I was a gaffer, it's like this is the lighting, like we already have it designed, so we're just going to implement it because that's what the client wants.
But once in a while, though, I mean, you'll have to, you'll have to come in and help out. Have you ever had to do that? Have you ever had to kind of come in with someone with a commercial like that, and maybe maybe they signed off on it, But once they started playing it, once they started rolling it out, you started creating it. All of a sudden, you as a director, a skilled director, you notice that maybe there's something that's not there, or it's missing, or what have you. Do most directors feel confident enough to walk up to the client and sit there and say, "Listen, I mean, I see what you want to do. I just want to say, I just want to let you know that I see something a little bit. I think it might work out a little bit better. Can we, or would you be willing to take a chance with me? I mean, and I'll show you I'll show you what I'm talking about." Or are they just
Yeah, so I don't direct a lot of, yeah, I've never actually directed any commercials. So all the commercials I worked on were as a gaffer. So I'm the one in charge of the lighting team. And so yeah, I couldn't really speak on that per se, but yeah, so because everything that would be coming to me is coming from the cinematographer. So that's who would be having that conversation with the director, and if they were having that conversation.
I would think that any director that's done like a 48-hour film challenge, I feel like anybody that can handle that and do it well could walk onto a set and do a commercial. Is that an assumption correct?
I think it's just very, yeah, it's a completely different thing. So like, yeah, whenever I never did commercials because I didn't like that kind of environment as a director. And so because it was, yeah, it was more because you're bringing a client's vision to life in that director capacity. So while you are the creative, you're also kind of like you're helping out the people to bring their vision to life. So it's more of you're getting paid to do that. So that's why like when I make my features, like I'm also producing them. So it's like I am the one that's bouncing the ideas, technically off myself because I'm the one paying for it. But yeah, so and then but in my crews though, I encourage crew members to give suggestions. I encourage, if you're like you think the lighting can be better, like if you think there's something in your job that we can be doing better, yeah, then let's make it happen. So because as a crew member, like I liked working on those sets where it was like, oh, have you like if we thought about this lighting wise, we can save time. That gives you a couple more times to get a couple more takes because I can get it done quicker. Are you guys all right with that? And then like that, yeah, of course I encourage that. I've gotten things from PAs. I've gotten things from makeup artists, like just to make the movie better. Just being like, hey, this makeup's going to take a little bit while. If we can shoot from this side, I can do half of it, and then we can move forward and get the other half done. It's like so. I mean, yeah, you're definitely hopefully encouraging your crew to communicate, with you. I mean, because ideally, I want to make the film with them. I don't.
Now, your first job you mentioned that you got when you got there was you got off through Craigslist. Um, now did you I mean as far as were you technical? Were you for your very first job? Were you there as a background person first, or were you there as a tech person first?
The ones I got off of Craigslist, like I was doing everything. I was the one filming the stuff. I was editing it. Yeah, they were like, it was just like kind of all in one. The first like movie that I worked on, which was actually before I even moved to LA. It was a Christmas movie that I can't remember what the name of the movie was, but it's some Christmas movie they were shooting outside of Kansas City. And that was the one I was a PA on. And what I did is for 8 hours one day, I moved like a set of cones so an 18 wheeler could drive through because we were blocking the set off. That was my job for one day. I just moved that out of the way and back all day long. And then the other one was I stood in front of a door and made sure nobody went into it when they were filming. That was my other job for the 8 hours. So it was yeah, pretty that was my humble beginnings of cone mover on I can't remember what the name of that Christmas movie was.
Transportation and security.
Yeah, yeah. I guess you could have given it a fancy name, but I think I don't even know if I'm credited on that movie, but I did 2 days on it when it was in Kansas City.
Wow, that was probably. I don't think that would probably be a Hallmark movie because Hallmark always works in Canada. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I don't think it was a Hallmark movie. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, Hallmark is headquartered in Kansas City. That's where like their corporate headquarters are.
uh, yeah, they always do their filming way up there because of the cost and everything else. And plus the Canadian
Yeah,
talent
yeah,
standing.
the
Have
taxes are
you
good.
have you have you ever filmed outside the U.S. yet? Have you ever filmed?
I have not.
Oh,
Nope, I
okay,
haven't.
okay. So is that a goal of yours to try to get a production up to?
Yeah, I did location scouting on a feature I was attached to that never happened, but we were going to film in Italy, so I went over there for the location scout. And then, but it never came to fruition. So yeah, we were going to film around Naples and things like that, and then up in the mountains. So we did the whole location scout, and
Is it basically, honestly, for a movie like that, what's the number one killer? What kills a movie being made in a situation like that? Is it somebody with eyes that are too big for their stomach? Or
no, I don't think so. I think we had a like so the writer was from Italy, and so that's who I met, and I got attached with him. And so he was from Naples, and that's why I was over there for a film. Well, I was in London for a film festival on Little Hand, the movie you have. And I decided like his family was so close. He was like, you should come down here and we'll just look at these locations since you're already in Europe. And so that was kind of why that happened that fast. But basically, no, he ended up moving back, and so there was more like some family things and just timing, and that's 90% of it is just timing. And so there's just so many people a lot of times that come with these films, and so if you can do it small and you can make that vision come to life, it's like you've just increased your odds like tenfold. And so, like an improvised movie like Seize the Car, 5 people, that's easy to do. We can do it in one car, we can do it in one swoop, we can do it in one drive. Everything
God,
can kind of work.
honestly,
So if you try to do it with 50 people, then it becomes a logistical kind of nightmare that it's like it's going to take longer to get it off the ground. And that's why we went with the 5 people, because I was like, oh, we can do this in like these 7 days if we do it right now, everything lined up. And you're like, okay, let's do it. Because I'd rather have it done than like and do it within the confines of it and have it never done. But
I've always wanted to. I always thought of reviewing that movie, but it was one of those things where it's like, man, it's like you want to review it, but then again, you don't, because it's like a movie like that, you want to sit there and speak your piece at the same time. You're sitting there going like, what do I know? But when you go back to that, that's funny because you mentioned 5 people. I'm thinking, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say there was 5 people for that show too. The 2 leads, the 3 leads, and then the director and the photographer. I think it was just 5 as well. I have to go back and rewatch it, but I think it was
for
just
the
most.
for the she is love.
Yes.
I don't know a lot about. I'd have to look it up, but yeah.
That was yeah. I absolutely love I love the open the way the movie opened up is I something I've never seen before. Um,
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I hadn't even heard about it.
now here's my question for you. Now, what I loved about that movie, one of the things I really that stood out to me was the actress was almost without makeup, just enough. And I never thought she looked more luminous. She just looked. Now, when you're shooting with your couples or you're a leading actress, how important is it to have that natural look? I mean, that fits your story. How important is it for you to cast both? Like you want to cast attractive people, but you also want to attract realistic people. I will give credit to the movie in that regards. Like the guy, he looked like he could be anybody walking on the street. There's nothing remarkable about him at all. But that could be a strength, right? I mean, um, when you do an improv movie, something like that, where you work, when you cast your films, what do you look for when you cast your films? I mean, what's that one magical spark you're looking for? Is it someone with a huge skill set? Is it a look? Uh, uh, is it someone who's fast on the feet? What's important to you when you come across and casting?
Yeah, just somebody that can listen.
Listen.
Yeah, and so because I mean that's like half acting is reacting. I mean, is as cliche as that is, and very teacher of me, but it's yeah. If you're not listening to what the other person's saying, then you're never going to get anywhere with the scene. So yeah, so when you're doing casting, it's like you're seeing how well they're listening, like how long, what are they watching, what are they looking for in the other person, like what are they paying attention to. So but yeah, listening is like because if you can listen, then you can really kind of start to be a little bit more believable, even no matter what the scene is. because you'll go to the same kind of level as the other person. You're listening to what they're doing. You're following their lead a little bit, and then as you learn how to make that be a dance, then those two actors can have a lot of fun. So which I think happened a lot in ours. It's that they they start to have fun. They start to bounce off each other. They start to realize the rhythm of the conversations, and that takes time too. So, um, but yeah, like I'm not looking for anything. Yeah, I've never really looked for like any of those other little things that are kind of like superfluous. But I don't do a lot of makeup, like heavy makeup, just make it look pretty natural. Like I want you to feel like yourself. So whatever level that is, and basically make you feel like as comfortable as you are to be able to create. And so, because that's what we're doing, we're kind of making make believe and want to do that in the most um, equitable and best way that we can do it, that we can all bring our best to the table.
What happens? I've never asked this before in over 500 interviews, so I'm going to ask you. You get this. You get this question.
All right.
Um, how do you handle your temper when things are just going shitty all the way through? What do you how do you deal with that?
Be an adult, you're at work. Yeah,
Yeah, but
no, I
you and I both know this is a whole different animal right here. When we go
um
to things, people go implode. It's yeah.
yeah, I mean, I teach full time in between like the film. So I teach high school film and photography, and one of the first things that we talk about whenever somebody finally gets that job of a director is we talk about like what is that job. And yeah, like unfortunately that job has been turned into like a dictator on set, a creative vision that is unmatched by nobody else's questioning of it. It means you can do whatever you need to do to get your vision across. And I just completely 100% disagree with that. And believe if you have to scream and yell and to do all those things to get people to see your vision, then they're not going to work with you very long. And so, no, I've always kind of, yeah, it's a very high stress environment, and if you're not ready for that, then you got to work on that first. Because imagine, and I mean, maybe it's because I'm a teacher and I listen to people ask me questions all day long, most of which I've already answered multiple times, maybe to another student in a different class. Is that yes, you're going to have so many people coming at you all day long asking you everything. So if you can communicate very well, and you can also listen to what the information people are bringing to you, then I think you just eliminate a lot of those situations from even happening to begin with. But yeah, I just no, I don't scream, I don't yell. I'm not interested in that kind of directing. And if that's how you have to
Is
make your
that, is that
movies,
what
then wish your best of
is
luck.
that is that what they're teaching now? I mean, seriously, they're teaching basically to be an asshole on stage.
No, no, I don't. I think when you get on set, that's what you see. Like we see it in a lot of things. We see it in news articles and all kinds of things of directors yelling at people or making advances at people, or something in the name of their art. And I just don't think it's yeah, I think it's poor taste. And if you need to do that to create your art, then you need to go create your art by yourself with not other people that are there helping you out. So I think what I teach my students, and what I hope they get out of it, is that if you do get the privilege of doing this for a career, or as a job, or you get to put filmmaker on your IRS forms, then I think you have a lot of responsibility. But it's a job. You're at work, and that would be unacceptable. As a fry cook, it would be unacceptable as a waiter. It would be unacceptable in an office. And so I don't understand why it's acceptable in some pockets of entertainment and art, to be able to be like that to create your art. I don't. I just don't. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
No, no. Though it does happen. I mean, it does. I
Yeah,
mean,
it does.
not every single thing goes, is perfect. I mean, anybody would
Oh
tell
no, the
me,
whole movie, the whole movie is going to go wrong. So, but you know that when you start. So, um, if you know that when you start, you start planning accordingly. You just know that everything you're about to try to do is going to keep like it's just not going to happen. So you have to have scenario B, C, D, E, and F. and be ready to go to Y, and Z, because some of these things are just not going to work, and you got to be able to pivot and move, um, and so, but that shouldn't come at the expense of berating collaborators on set. I don't. Yeah, that's a weird one. That yeah, I've been on those sets where I've watched the director scream and yell at people,
Yeah.
and so yeah, and it's
What
something that I
about
said I won't do.
I know that some, I know some actors, I know some actors, they've had, struggle, during the day, getting the lines down or what have you, and
Mhm.
they struggle with it. And, and they, they deal with it on their own terms. I've always wondered, like, what happens with this? It's just not your day. You come out there, it's just not happening. Whether it be the weather's, not good, whether it be the lighting's not good, whether it be any number of things for a director to face, and sometimes they can just overrun it. And I always just really want to know how does a director, how do you handle that kind of pressure? Now, see, there, Michael Menard just walked in through the door. Film director Michael Menard, out of Iowa, fantastic director, by the way. Uh, but
Um, yeah, I think it's like everything in life. They all can't be perfect. If you're making a movie for 15 days, chances are one or two of those is probably not going to be the best. And it's, if you think about it like a sports team or whatever, if you play 15 games, yeah, you're going to lose a couple of them. Um, but thinking about like if something bad does happen or something, you don't get all the shots or the camera breaks, or which are all things that have happened on my sets where a light breaks, you can't turn it on. So like, and then you have to pivot. So I think the philosophy I have taken that's brought me great peace and more joy in making the films is that whatever bad happens is leading me to whatever is good. So I embrace that there's a reason that light broke down, and it's probably because we're not supposed to be lighting it this way. So let's just listen to that. Let's try to follow that little thread and see what happens.
okay.
Or I've gotten to locations that I've been directing, and they go, we didn't approve this location, producers didn't get whatever they needed to get, and you're like, we can't film here, where do we go? I've had crew members not show up because one got in a wreck, and our sound guy was gone. It's like, yeah, you go figure that out, and so let's take care of him, and see how we can move forward. But yeah, Michael, hello. He just said, yeah, 90% of filmmaking is troubleshooting. It's like, yeah, and if you do some of that troubleshooting in pre-production, then you can be a lot more light on your toes when you're filming. So if I know in my head, and I think that's where some of my previous work with being a gaffer and a dolly grip and working like high levels of crew positions is like I usually know how long these things are going to take. So as a director, if I'm asking for this big lighting setup, it's like I've already thought in my head that it's going to take 3.5 hours. So that's why I'm going to let you know now. I'm going to go film these two other little shots in some other place with one light and one crew member while you do that, and then we can be moving around. But yeah, everybody's not going to be on their best day every day. I mean, I've never had that kind of film. But what's good is it's like usually everybody is going to have their best day at least half of those days, and hopefully those people will lift everybody else up and be like, "I got you. Yeah, this isn't working. Okay, we need to cut that line of dialogue up. I got an idea. Let's get this insert shot that will tie back to this shot, and then that gives you a little bit of break, so we can cut this into 2 paragraphs instead of one long monologue." Just start thinking about like how you could break it up and just like there's a reason it's happening, and it's probably because the story needs to be better. And so I just take that as like the story needs to be better. What we're doing right now is not in service of the story, so let's fix it. Let's try something else. That's why I don't
Now,
do 37 or 40 takes of things. It's like if I can't get it in the first 7 or 8, it's like I gotta figure out what's going wrong. Like there's something that's not working.
did you show your movies to your students, and did you show them and did they, what kind of feedback did you get from it?
Yes, some of my students now sign up for like my Substacks. Like a couple of them have followed the letterbox. I don't follow, like I tell them that's their graduation present. I'll follow you after you've graduated and you've moved on. But yeah, they've seen some of my stuff. Like I've showed scenes. Usually when it's like in service of like something we're doing. The longer I teach, I've been teaching for about 5 years now. So now they're starting to realize that I did a lot of stuff. when they go to look up my IMDb, which I think is like when you pull the veil back on a teacher and you go, oh my God, they're like, they actually did what they're teaching me to do.
Uh,
What's funny, it's the same with like when guest speakers come in and they'll say something that I've been saying in class for 6 months, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, that he said it, he said it," and I was like, "Yeah, I've been saying exactly that same thing to you," but it's just they start to realize you're a real person, and but yeah, so they have seen some of them. I show some of this stuff. Some of the projects that they do, like I've done experiments with them too. So I show them like what I did with it, so they can kind of see like how you could level this up if you wanted to. So like I'm trying to create with them. Same with the photography students. So I take a lot of pictures, but that gives me a chance too to like kind of like also to see what like the next generation of filmmakers. And The Michael guy said my students were ruthless. So I let them edit a short film once. I haven't let them edit any of my work, but yeah, but they are they are honest, yes, and so
I'm
that's fine too. And
I'm sure after Michael's students looked at it,
Yeah,
his students were ruthless. I made the mistake of letting them edit a short film I made. I'm sure after that happened,
yeah.
they're talking to him, and he probably should have said, "Now, boys and girls, there's no reason to be crass."
I have given him like a pile of stuff, like a B-roll I've shot and things like that that I never use, and I have given him that to like edit. And so to like make like experimental films or montages, like when we're trying out techniques. But yeah, I think that they will be honest, and but yeah, some of the times they're also like it's very humbling. They're like, you made that. That's the one that kind of hits more. You're like, like I know you're being sarcastic right now, but yeah, so no, it's good. The
I was gonna say, real quick here. Yeah, that's I didn't know. I didn't know that you taught. I didn't know
Yeah.
that Michael was also a teacher as well. Um, I think that's fascinating, and I think it's I think it's great, especially in LA. I think it is great. I think it's get out there and you encourage these guys to move, get their hands dirty, to move off their feet. A lot of times, I think people do. A lot of the students do they do they think do you think that as a director the job is to just tell people what to do, or do they understand that in order to become a director, you have to be a gaffer, a lighter, or or anything else? Before you become a good director, you got to be a good crewmate. Do people understand that now, or a lot of like because how kids are these days. They all want it yesterday. They want to be you yesterday instead of going through all the
yeah, that hasn't been my experience with it. I think they are working on being a little bit more present. I mean, but that's also something I do with them. But no, we make sure early on, like I check a lot of that behavior, like if it starts to get that way, and be like, no, it's just like, yeah, like how else could you ask for that to happen? But like, how could you ask somebody, like, what's a different way you could try to ask that question that would maybe be, more respectful or receptive to the other person? And so, yeah, we kind of work through those things. But yeah, all in all, yeah, I want to make sure that we have enough of those dictator kind of directors out there, and so ideally the next wave is like a little bit more collaborative, because in my experience, just like every film I've been on, it's been like a collaboration with everybody is just such a better experience, and the film is better. So it's just like we just make better work.
What do you feel about editing? Do you edit your films as well?
I have, yes, I've edited all three of them. Um, and so, but more of it's
I have a theory about that. I've gone with this. More and more, the longer I do this, the more I'm convinced that I really am. I'm convinced that the best editors are directors.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that it's like if you know how to edit. I mean, if you're going to be a director, I think at some point you should edit at least like a 10 or 15-minute short film that you've made.
Not
And
talking
so
about somebody else. I
not
think
somebody else's, like something you've made, so you can genuinely look at every single shot you decided to spend all that time on, and like what it actually served to the story. And so like my first film, the horror, there's a good chunk of of a therapy session in that, and we shot the wide shot for 8 of the 12 hours that day. and I used like maybe 5 to 8 seconds of it, I think, in the whole cut. So when I realized that, it was just like, oh, like I need to know that like I'm only going to use this in the scene for this long. So like this isn't as important as this other shot. So I make sure it just helps you with your on set to be like, okay, this scene is going to be these 5 shots. This shot's probably going to be like, I don't know, like maybe 2 or 3 seconds just to establish this character over here. So like we need to be able to get in and out of this shot a little bit faster so we can move on. It helps with pacing on set. It helps with your choices on set, your shot list, your blocking, everything. If you start, I mean, same with like as a cinematographer. If you want to be a cinematographer, you should be editing some stuff. It's just like it's going to inform where you put the camera. It's going to inform how long you keep rolling after certain shots. So making sure that the editor has something to cut on. It's just like, yeah, it's an inevitable thing that you're going to have to do in this art form. You have to edit, and so I think if you need to do that, you know, as fast as you can. Like you need to learn how to do that because it's going to make your job so much better. And also, if you don't have any money, if you know how to edit, you've just cut your budget in half. So it's a job that you can do, and it's great because it happens after the film. So I don't even have to worry about being an editor while I'm making the movie because I've already thought about it in pre-production and post-production. Now I can just go make the movie. So it's like I have a job after that I'm doing it. But um, I have worked with editors on short films and stuff like that, but the budgets have never been high enough on the features, so I end up editing them just so I can edit them at my own kind of pace and time. And then I do a lot of revisions, and I send them out to editor friends, and they give me notes, which I've been forever grateful for. Never been able to afford to pay them for a whole feature, but they will watch the movie and give me feedback on, usually I just send them like certain scenes and be like, can you just, from your vision, like, what do you think would work better? And, but yeah, it's good to have those collaborators to like bounce off of. And,
I
but
do see
yeah.
like I've noticed that, where I watch a movie and I'll see it, so and so has edited, and I'll go look at their name, and a lot of times they're directors, and I've always
Yeah,
felt
I
like,
think it's just by you just have to like, I mean, there's so many films that I've worked on where I haven't been like the executive producer. I've just been for hire and they just never get finished. I've never seen them. And it's because they run out of money or the editor runs out or something else happens. And so, I mean,
well, that's another
there's
interesting aspect I was going to ask you about. So what happens when a project is in the middle of it, like the one in Italy, and it just goes belly up? Um, what people actually get paid off that movie? Do you get paid for as long as you're on the set, or you because I always wonder how that happens. Do you get paid your rate before the movie starts, because that way it assures that the fact that at least you got paid for your time, regardless whatever happens, whether the movie gets paid or
Yeah.
not. You still got to get paid for your time. You just can't sit out there for 10 days and not get paid. Does that happen?
Yeah. I mean, it probably does in some cases. In the case of that film, no, it was just me and the writer. We were trying to get more of it, going. And so at that point, it's kind of like one of those you're investing in yourself. And so, and that's been a lot of it. I think is the reason I've been able to get to where I've at is, when the money has fell through, I've went and worked as a gaffer and saved up money to be able to afford to do this scene to make this movie. And but yeah, no, I don't like at some budgets you probably would. At the budgets that
Like
I'm
I
working
was
at,
thinking
no, no.
flying over to Italy. I'm thinking,
Well,
I don't
I
know.
was already there. So like I didn't go specifically for that. That would have been way outside my budget. But my second film, Little Hand, was premiering at Rain Dance. So I was already in London. And so if anybody's ever flown around there, it's like a 35-minute flight from London to Italy. So I just took a little, like it's like taking a bus across town almost in most big towns.
Oh,
Uh
okay.
and so yeah, and then I had a free place to stay because it was my friend that we were trying to do that, and so that's how we were able to do that. But yeah, nobody was getting paid for it at that point. Yeah, the money, like the actual financing, hadn't come through. We were just trying to get more of the pre-production stuff. In anticipation of that happening, we were trying to like basically front load it and get some of that stuff done, since I was already there, as opposed to fly over there again, because it did feel like it was very close to happening. So we were kind of, we're betting on ourselves. Um, and so, well, it was a great trip. I hadn't been to Italy before. It was wonderful. But yeah, the film didn't happen. and sometimes I like I tell my students as well, like there are things that they make in my class that never get seen out of the class. There are some things that they start that never get finished. And I think if you're going to be an artist at any level, you have to just be willing to know that 95% of the stuff that you're making is never going to get seen by anybody, and it's going to be for you and because you're learning something. And um, for these three films that you have in your hand, I have a dozen other scripts that haven't been produced that are sitting on a hard drive, and it's like that may never get seen. And so, but I think you really have to enjoy the process, and you have to enjoy all the stuff in between. And so I tell them, as a director, I've directed 3 feature films. I've been on set for 35 days of that, and it took about 9 years. So it was 35 days of actually making the movie in 9 years. So, but I
Right.
worked on it for 9 years for those 3 movies. And so I think you really have to enjoy the process of making a film. And if you don't enjoy the part where you're not with a camera in your hand, which is almost all of it, then it's really hard to enjoy the process of making a movie, because it's pretty grueling, and it can be disappointing. Um, and basically everything you thought the film was going to be, it's going to be something else, because it's a collaboration. There's too many people working on it simultaneously. It becomes something that nobody could ever imagine, and that's what I love about it.
Um, Here's the 3 films we're talking about. One is the Improvise, Seize the Carp.
That's it.
Yep, there's that. Now this is the romantic one, right? Or the one.
No, that one, yeah, that one has no romance at all. It's two
Well,
childhood friends. Yeah.
I mean, well, a boy and a girl.
Yeah, but there's no
Um,
romance at all. Yeah. If you're going in for romance, you're not going to like that one.
oh, none of what did you ever think what might have happened? None of that.
No, we specifically wanted it to not be that, because I'd seen so many movies that were like these indie movies of like, will they, won't they? And I was like, if people are worried about that, they're missing the whole point of the movie. So we just went, they're like, I wanted to make a film about just friends. Like because I think I have some friends that are not guys that are really great friends, and you just don't see a lot of those movies where it's like a guy and girl friendship that's genuinely a friendship. Like they love each other, but it's just a friendship.
Yeah, I mean, I can see
And so
that.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just it's interesting, because you always think about that. You always think about the one that gets away, or the one that what could have been. I don't think I don't think that's nearly as a trope that people think it is. I think it actually is very much in real life. I mean, there's always and if you ever you just go to your high school reunion or college reunion, and believe me, that will come roaring at you. Uh, Happy valid holidays to you too, Lady Valerie. Um, uh, yeah, let's see, and Michael has also asked you a question. He says, How is the LA film scene right now? Is it still thriving, or is it, or a lot of the state's issues affecting everything?"
I'm
And
not really, I'm
really,
not freelance anymore, so I don't, I mean, I just know through like friends and things like that. But yeah, yeah, I don't know like what it's really like, besides, like, I mean, the strikes did do a lot of things. Um, but it did come back a little bit. I know my friends were working this week, which usually is a dead week in LA. Usually people aren't already out of town. So but yeah, I'm not freelance anymore, so I don't know. And most of the time, like, I'm working in budgets that it's like I'm creating my own kind of destiny. So because I'm not working inside of a studio or anything like that. Like I said, Bronson Creative is me.
what's it like for you to raise budget? I mean, it seems like more and more people are doing the crowdsourcing. How is that like in LA? Are you crowdsourcing?
Yeah, no, I've never. We crowdsourced for like $3,000 on Little Hand to finish sound design. We kind of ran out of money at the very end, and we did that. But for no, the most part, it's like yeah, most of it's been internally financed by like me and me and the actors, or me and the crew, or and so like that's kind of one of my things, is like I like to put my money in it. And so, which I know is what everybody says don't do, but I think if you're working at like a $15,000 to $20,000 budget, which the biggest budget that any of these films have is 25,000, and so it's like I'm just using all those skill sets. I've acquired gear over the years, so I have so many things. but yeah, I think if you can like you can do it inside of that kind of budget, but you have to really plan accordingly, and you have to be all right with what that film is going to be, because whenever it's a smaller budget like that, it's very um, yeah, it's just gonna have a different quality, a different feel, a different look. So, but yeah, can you get the scene done in 3 angles instead of 12 angles? You just saved half a day of shooting. So it just requires you to think a little bit differently. And uh, I actually like that a little bit. That it's like it really makes me go down to like what are the bare essentials of this scene to work on like a visceral level, and that's I mean that's kind of how I write them too. Is like I'm trying to get down to what is the visual like that, and that's because the visual storytelling, and I like that to be like what is the visual gonna tell you, and if I can start to think about that more as like the editing doing it, also knowing I'm going to be the one editing. So I'm pre-editing it in my head to try to get it down to like what is the actual thing that I'm trying to capture here, and that means that pre-production has to last a lot longer, which gives me time to work on set or do other things, and basically save up, and that way we can kind of do it. But
Michael says here, shoot me your socials. I'd love to collaborate somehow, even if it's just quality control for each other. Yeah, you can't. That's a great idea. Good suggestion.
so it's
Uh,
just Bronson Creative on everything, so you can find it on everything. Bronson Creative.
yeah, I'll send you Michael's interview he did too. He did a movie. You should have killed me, which is absolutely jam of a movie. It's definitely one of my favorite movies I've watched since I've been doing this. The movie's so much that movie's so much fun. I'm always quoting it too. And he doesn't even know that. He doesn't know that, but I quote that movie. I quote his movie a lot. Let's see. Let's see. I'll do your sound designs for free. No, problem. That's
I don't have anybody work for free anymore, but I appreciate that.
wow. Oh, that's you know what? But
Yeah.
yeah, Iowa right now, Iowa is white hot. That's a really interesting question to ask too. What do you feel as a filmmaker? What are we heading into starting in January 21st? How are the arts going to be affected by what this country is about ready to go through? Are you
um,
concerned about
yeah, I
it?
don't even.
Are you concerned
What
that
was
maybe
it?
your voice? Are you concerned that your voice is going to be censored?
No, I haven't even really thought about being censored. I think now is the time to make more art. And so I mean, there's no better time than right now. So I think that I am optimistic. I mean, that's why I've made a whole website about bringing physical media back. I started a company for film called the Celluloid Collective. That we're bringing film back from the dead, and finding new places for it to be able to be shot. And yeah, I think physical media is going to be a huge advocate of that. And so, but yeah, no, I'm not worried about being silenced. I think it's now the time, and I mean, use your voice. That's what I'm teaching my students. Is like you have a voice. You have something to say. Go make a film. Go do a piece of art. Make some music. But yeah,
How I,
we need good art. We need less content and more art.
yeah, you mentioned that you are, doing a micro budget of distributing company.
Mhm.
I'm just curious how did you start that? And if I walk through the door with my movie today, how are you going to sell me to go with you as far as distributing goes? What will you be able to do for my movie?
Yeah, I won't sell you on it because I think that's. I mean, I got sold really good on a couple of things and made no money off of it. So I can't guarantee you're going to make any money. I can't guarantee that I'm going to make any money. What I can guarantee is, people like you, Patrick, now have a copy of my movie in your house. That's what I can guarantee you, is that there will be physical copies of your movie, and as much work as you want to put into it, just like me, to spread that. Then yeah, you'll get the money off of your film. But basically, like, I just want, there are a lot of films I've seen at film festivals that mine have been at, or my friends have been at, or friends' movies that have just never been seen because a distributor basically gets it and then just hides it somewhere for 7 or 8 years. And it's like, I just want, if there's a good film that I like, I want to get it out there. I want to help you get it onto something physical that you can actually have in your hand. And so, because yeah, I think all the art and and that is being hidden behind all these algorithms and stuff is like, that's the only thing I'd be worried about. But that's 40, 50 years down the line where we don't have any more physical things of it. So I think that's more of the bigger picture for just, yeah, just for the love of this art form. I think it needs to be on physical. I think it needs to have actual versions of it out in the world that we can, we can pass around and we can share with each other and be able to get it to different places. But
Michael
yeah.
mentioned, he says, I think as a filmmaker, we're safe for now, but as a commercial oh, videographer, I'm slightly scared. I saw over 5 commercials while watching football this weekend that were 100% AI. Um, hey Eric, how are you, sir? All right, fellow interviewer, Eric here. He does interviews as well as I do, and quite a good interviewer. Uh, if he says, yeah, I noticed that too. Like here on YouTube, it's horrendous. Oh, Jesus Christ, it's horrendous. The AI here is blows your mind. It blows your mind how much now it's getting pretty thick a little bit on Instagram. And I have heard this. It was weird because I have never heard this before until now, and I heard it this week for like 4 or 5 different sources. I'm not sure if it was just a trend that got picked up or pushed around, or this is how people. The last time I heard people talk like this was with MySpace was around, but people have given up on Facebook. People are just like, no, thank you. I only use my Facebook for promoting. I don't engage with it at all. There's nothing they offer zero anything to any creative. If you're a creative, Facebook is the wrong platform for you. Um, and it's starting to get a little scary out there. Like I said before about YouTube, there are a lot of AI out there. Um, that's yeah. I didn't even think about that per se. I just thought about the censorship. Like would you be willing to make a political comedy? Would are you willing to take a risk of poking fun at somebody? Like what will happen? Will you get sued? Will you get arrested? Will you get? And the thing is, though, those questions sound like the high, pie in the sky. But between you and me, they're really not, are they? I mean, it's a legitimate concern going forward. I see. It's just like comedy. Comedy has been beaten down to where it's just a few people will come up there and actually be brazen enough to say to perform an act. I think there's a lot of people out there now that are they're not as confident. They're scared. They're scared to make that political comment. Um, uh, oh, don't do that to me. Oh, hold on here. Ah, hold on 1 second. I have to turn this off and come back on. Sorry about that. Yeah. So I mean, is that a concern going forward for you?
Not really. No, I haven't really put a lot into that. Yeah, I think yeah, it's you have. I mean, I teach this to the students as well. It's like you have a voice. You can say whatever you want, but also somebody else can say whatever they want, and so you'll have to have the discourse, and you'll have to you'll have to ask questions if you think you need to ask questions, and you might have to answer questions about your work, and I think that's okay. Your work doesn't come with like a security blanket. It doesn't really like with a reflective shield. So I think yeah, if I like to think that I've made good choices with how these things are construed by people that watch them, but also these films I started making over 10 years ago. I was in my mid 20s um and early 20s, and so yeah, it was time keeps moving forward, and so but I think we just keep evolving um as a as people, and ideally that makes us better and it makes us more conscious and more cognizant of other things. And but yeah, I think that yeah, I haven't really thought about anybody being censored for that. So I think that I think that good work will still find its way out there. And yeah, but
You
you
know,
have to. You're not going to find it on like the Netflixes and Amazons and things like that. You're going to have to go to other places if you want to start finding different voices. There are different places for different films, but yeah, if you're getting only one curated streaming service, then you're already technically, I would say, not really getting a complete diverse view set, because you're only getting one algorithm of what this network thinks is TV, or this network, however we want to code it at this point. But the AI stuff, we do AI stuff in my class. I'm working on something right now with trying to like take my old features and use AI tools to remove things out of them and just see what that looks like. Like if this AI, I'm not too scared of it. I think it's really clunky. As I think somebody maybe said in there, that it doesn't look really realistic. The Coca-Cola bear thing is very weird. It feels very uncanny valley, and it's also like only 6 seconds at a time, and that's because that's where it kind of taps out. That's like as long as the videos can be made right now. So it will get better, but yeah,
Sure.
if you don't want to watch that kind of stuff, there's still so much art out there where you don't have to watch that stuff. You're gonna have to go look at some other places, which is, I think,
I
my
was
bad.
just actually, I'm with you about that, but I was just stunned with about how much of the AI is already here. It's already here
Oh yeah, it's in everything. It's it's been here for like 20 years. I think
and
we've wrapped our head around a different way of calling it AI. But we've been using,
it's actually
augmented
creative.
systems like this for a long time. The generative part is new, and so yeah, and so you can decide, where you stand on all of that. But yeah, I mean, my photography class, we do an AI photography project. I think that we should be learning how to use it. Like I mean, not be scared of it. But I think that it's not going away. It's going to be something different than it is today. And yeah, you can decide how much of it you want to use, but it's also pretty easy. Like once you start looking at what it looks like, it's a media literacy game at this point. Is just making sure people know what it looks like so they can be
Mhm.
protected if they're looking at something and going like, why does this feel weird to me? It feels weird because it's not realistic and it's not real and it's a computer generated thing.
I don't
And
know, but
so just getting
I don't know,
people to
being
know more.
hypersensitive to that, being, the YouTube, on YouTube and doing a YouTube channel or surfing it, being hyper about it. But man, I am hyper about it. I mean, when I go around different channels and I'll go check it out, and I can definitely tell when it's AI, and I'm just sitting there going like,
Yeah, you
what
can hear
really
the
bugs
voices, the patterns of the editing are pretty high intensity, and so and that's probably because they're using videos off the internet. So like AI is teaching AI with some of these things, and that's where it gets a little wonky. And but yeah, I don't think it's anything to really be scared of per se. I can't live in that
what I
full
feel
fear
really bad
mode.
about though
But
is that people who have been creative, that are creatives though, right? Like, like
yeah,
they put their work into it, and and they put the work into it, and they go out there and they put it out there on, their content, and their content is not seen. It's suppressed. Again, it's, the censorship about that. It's like, why, if I'm YouTube, why am I going to go ahead and pay you anything when I can just go ahead and allow AI to come over, take over, and and just give them a 500,000 subscribers, make it look like they're the big shot on the block, and people keep going over there because that's people tend to do that. People tend to go to accounts that are much bigger. If you got
yeah,
someone to go if you go someone to watch, someone who has 1,500 subscribers versus someone who's 500,000, 99 out of 100 people are going to go over and see what's going on in the 100 or the 500,000, because obviously, because they have so many more over there, obviously it's worth watching. And it's in the actuality, it's the reverse. They don't have anything watching, but they can create that illusion of it. And then the person who does have something to say, does have something to show, it gets suppressed by the algorithms. Now, as far as censorship goes, I mean, there's more than one way, as we already know, to censor filmmakers and creatives. Um, and like by doing just that. Like, sitting there and watching people try to get their, like, you have a YouTube channel, and I subscribe to it, by the way, but you have a
oh, thank
YouTube
you.
channel of 200 people. You're an active filmmaker. You're an active filmmaker.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't take it to heart. I think if you get into an artistic field, or you get into something that's creative, um, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, um, like modern societies really don't value art I'll put art in quotes, because then we end up using all of that art for content to make all these things, like you're saying, these heavy things. But I think if you're going to put all your eggs in the basket that a huge corporation like Google or Amazon or any of these things, which is what I did early on. And that I thought, like once I get it on Amazon, once I get it on iTunes, once I get it on all these things, I'm going to be able to make enough money to make my next movie. And the harsh reality of that was like that's barely inside the door of any of these companies. So even if you get inside there, now you're inside there with 100,000 people that only got one foot through the door. So I just had to rewire my brain a little bit and go, okay, I played that game. I'm not going to play that game anymore. So like I'm going to go and I'm going to go find my community somewhere else that is not on there. And I mean, I think we have to start like um kind of figuring out like, and I think this is like when I talk to younger filmmakers too and younger artists, if you're only getting your value out of how many followers you have on Instagram or how many people subscribe to you, then it's going to be very, very hard moving forward because those people are going to come and go, and most of them you're never even going to really know, besides when they're there. And so you need to start making stuff that you're proud of and that you'll be all right. And you can't only like 99% of the things that have got me to here have been things that I did not do for the money. I didn't do them for the money in the time that I was doing them. I did them because I needed to do them. I needed to create them. I needed something. And then I laid those pebbles down over 15 years to walk here. So we just we have to like kind of rewire it a little bit. And I can't have like, I don't want the students going out there and just only having that. And I was like, I had to even start thinking about it because when I started, there really wasn't YouTube. There really wasn't. I mean, YouTube had started, but it wasn't like the behemoth it is today. You could actually get lucky on there a little bit without having to play all the things. Um, but I just think that like I started to go like, okay, wait a second. If 200 people, like every time that I came and like I put a film out on the internet, if 200 people were actively there waiting for it, that is incredible. Like 200
Right.
people, like it's like if you had like if that's a movie theater worth of people.
Yeah.
It's like, and I've been in and I've had my films in like in movie theaters like with full crowds like that, and it's an incredible experience.
Yeah.
And you're like, but it wasn't like there was 5 million people in there. Like I think we've forgotten how big of a group 200 people is. Yeah, it's not monetized or anything like that, but everything that's on my YouTube or on my website or anything like that is 100% me as an artist. That's like
Right.
how I want you to see the work. I'll play the game,
I
and
go
I'll play
back
with
to
the algorithm and like
my,
the cards and but
I look at it, I sort of look at it like that's my job. I look at it like that's Eric's job, since he's an interviewer. I look at it as part, someone actually called me, and I was very flattered, extremely flattered. I had a journalist who we talked to on here, and she called me a journalist. She says your questions are journalism level, high. And I was really like, I was touched by that because no one's ever just come out there and said, I feel like I'm talking to a journalist when I'm talking to you. And and the way I look at it is my goal when I'm asking these questions is to raise that awareness. It's like, to me, it's like, why should you look? It's already a battle to get your films made, right? How many years did it take you to get these three made?
9.
9 years. 9 years. And yet someone could walk up there, plug in some AI bullshit, run it up there, pop up a channel or two, right? Look at your algorithm, look at your
Mhm.
movies all in common, pop that out there, pop up a channel basically with what you're already doing, and then take whatever the creativeness that you had, and like, again, it's this human nature. It's like, it's like that's why that's well, look at it this way. Look at the box office. Box office, you have Disney. Box office, we have the horror. Okay, Disney's going to get 4,200 screens. You'll get one. Where the
Yeah.
but what would happen? What would happen? The next movie that you came out there, Disney gets 4,000, and then you get 101, and so on and so on. The more you're exposed to it, the more people see you and hear you. That's the
Yeah.
thing. I mean, there's no such thing anymore as this. I'm a starving artist. Bullshit. You're
No,
a
I'm not.
filmmaker.
I'm not. I can't. I'm
Yeah,
not. I was done with
you're
that pretty fast. I'm not a
yeah.
starving artist.
No,
No.
you are a filmmaker. You deserve to get paid for for your work. You deserve
Yeah.
to have the opportunity to to be seen, and to have it suppressed, whether it be through a monopoly like the big studios have. Like, when someone comes up there and says, "I played on a single screen," I'm impressed. I'm happy. I'm happy. But why can't it be two screens? Why can't it be four screens? Why can't the theater owners around sit there and say, "Oh, I'm going to give you my smallest room. I have the smallest room here, 60 people. I can put another I can put another Madam Web in there for a night, for a weekend, or I could turn around and have nothing in there, or I could turn around and give it to a local filmmaker and give him that opportunity to sit there and show his film, on the screen for 3 nights in a row, and report it to
Then
Box
yeah,
Office
yeah,
Mojo." I
yeah.
just feel like I just feel like the independent directors need an even playing field. They need to be able to put their films, and their opportunities in there without having anybody coming over and just just, yeah, just
Well,
crushing it.
yeah, I have to jump off here in like 2 seconds, but
Oh,
I would end on this a little bit. If you really want to see more films in the theater that are not $150 million, then people have to start watching them and they have to start talking about them. They have to start
yeah.
talking about them in the way that they talk about Madam Web. They have to start talking about them like you have to start supporting real artists. You have to start paying for art again. It's like the filmmakers aren't making them because realistically, Hollywood math is no movie ever makes any money. That's the Hollywood math of it. And so it's by design to be like that. So it's very cryptic and there's no transparency and things like that. But there are great things that are happening. I have these films now in 2 rental places and movie rental places. Yes, there are a bunch of places closing down, but there are a bunch of independent movie rental places popping up all over this country. There are micro cinemas popping up all over this country. If you have one in your neighborhood, in your small town, then call them and say, hey, would you put an independent film in there, and then reach out to me on my website, and I would gladly send them a DCP or a DVD or a Blu-ray or whatever to make that happen. But yeah, it's like it's more than one person, and we talk a lot about the content stuff of things and going viral and all these kind of things. But I'm one of thousands and thousands of filmmakers that are doing things like this, that are still making a living making movies, be it small, but they're still doing it in the way that they need to. But yeah, it takes everybody to talk about it. You see a small film that you have to actively go watch them. And they're not going to be big budget action movies. They're going to be dramas. They're going to be horror movies. They're going to be sci-fi, and they're going to have independent elements and documentaries and things like that. And the production value may be a little slighter, but they're actually using real techniques, and they're not using AI, and they're not using all these graphics and to cover things up, and they're making their art. So but yeah, you just have to support real artists. Like you have to support people. You have to buy their films. You have to go watch their films. You have to talk about their films. And so,
Well,
but I
I
appreciate
will.
you bringing me on here and talking about this though.
Yeah, we'll have you come back. We'll have you come back. Maybe it's time to do a directors roundtable. That's what I probably need to do. I need to do a directors roundtable. But
Sounds
thank you for
good.
your time. I'll let you go since you gotta go.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for your time, and we'll stay in touch. And then early next year, we'll reach out and do this again. And
sounds
please, by
good.
all means, connect with Michael. By all means, Michael is a tremendous filmmaker. Like I said, you two
Yeah, follow
guys.
me at Bronson Creative on Instagram, and yeah, I'm active on there, so it's easy to get a hold of me on there.
All right, boys and girls, thank you again,
Thank you for having me.
and we will see you soon. To the
All right, see you,
audience,
Patrick.
no problem. To my audience, I will go ahead and cut this short right here. Thank you for watching and supporting the show. I really do appreciate it. We will be back here on Friday the 27th. We will be talking with actress Julia Ekahoma. I know it's a Russian name. Just forgive me for that. I know I killed her name. And then on the 30th, a week from today, we will be here with Gabrielle Westwood, Jinx, and another director with a very hard last name to say. And we will be here next Monday. It will be our last show until March or until February, and we'll be talking about the Devil's Vortex. That's right. can't wait. I can't wait to meet Jinx. And good to see Gabriel again. But thank you again for everything, and Merry Christmas to you and your family if you celebrate it. And we will talk at you soon. Peace.